On February 17th, 2026, a truly rare and powerful solar eclipse is going to paint a ring of fire across the Antarctic ice. So, in this explainer, we're going to dive into the precise astronomy of the event. We'll uncover its deep historical roots, and then we'll explore the unique energetic signature it's going to imprint on our world.
Our story begins here, in Antarctica. You know, it's one of the most remote, one of the most silent places on the entire planet.
All right, let's start with the physical event itself. What is it exactly? Where is it happening? And what, if anything, can actually be observed?
So, at its absolute peak, the moon is going to cover 92.74% of the sun. Now, that's not a total blackout. It's something else. Something, you might even say, more beautiful. It's a perfect, brilliant ring of fire left shining in a darkened sky.
And this whole event is going to unfold really low in the sky. The sun will be hanging just 12 degrees above the Antarctic horizon. You can just imagine its light glancing right across the ice. Let's get into the specifics of this event. The eclipse takes place on February 17, 2026. The time is precisely 12:13 Universal Time. It's what's known as an annular eclipse, which is what creates that ring of fire. As we said, the moon will cover 92.74% of the sun, and that moment of annularity will last for 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And notice that solar altitude again, just 12 degrees. This low position means it would be an absolutely breathtaking sight, but it's one that will be physically witnessed by almost no one. So for most of us, this event isn't really a visual spectacle, it's an energetic one.
Now, what's really fascinating is that this eclipse is not an isolated one-off event, not at all. It's actually a member of a very ancient family, a whole lineage of eclipses that's now getting close to its end.
This eclipse, it belongs to a family known as Saros 121. Now, a Saros cycle is a period of just over 18 years. After that time, the sun, the earth, and the moon return to pretty much the same relative geometry, which creates this whole series of related eclipses. Saros 121, this particular one, it began way back in the year 944, and it's set to end in 2206. So as you can see from this timeline, we are really just witnessing the final chapters of this ancient celestial story.
So let's break this down. This is the 61st member of 71 total eclipses in this series. The phase is described as senescent, which just means it's declining, it's getting old. 86% of this series' entire lifespan is already behind it. There are only 2 annular eclipses left in this entire family, this one in 2026 and the next one in 2044. And after that, just a few minor partial eclipses, and then the series just fades away completely.
Now, here's an interesting historical note. Astrologers have noticed correlations for a long time between this specific Saros series and periods of market volatility. The previous eclipse in this very cycle, back in February of 2008, it coincided with the beginnings of the global financial crisis. Now, to be very clear, this is an observational correlation, not a claim of causation, but it is a pattern that's been documented for over a century.
Okay, so we have the physics, we have the history. Let's now move to the precise astrological weather at the moment of the eclipse, because the geometry of the solar system right at that instant is what defines its character.
All right, let's look at the chart for the moment of the eclipse. You can see the sun and moon are together at nearly 29 degrees of Aquarius. Uranus is at a very similar degree over in Taurus, and you have both Saturn and Neptune having just entered Aries. The specific degrees of these planets are absolutely crucial. They're what determine the geometric relationships, the aspects, that really define the energetic character of this whole event.
The dominant configuration, the one that really stands out, is this one, an exact 90-degree angle, what we call a square, between Uranus in the fixed Earth sign of Taurus and the eclipse in the fixed air sign of Aquarius. What does that mean? Well, it's a geometry of tension. It's the drive for security and stability versus the impulse for radical freedom. And in a square like this, there really is no easy compromise. It signifies sudden breaks and, yes, financial disruption.
But there are other things going on that add some layers here. First, Mars is very close to the eclipse, which can introduce a current of mental aggression, a kind of nervous energy into the mix. But at the same time, we have what's called a sextile, a harmonious 60-degree angle between Saturn and Neptune. Now, this isn't some forced solution. Think of it more like an opportunity, a pathway for building something really constructive right in the middle of all that tension, but it's only there for those who are willing to take it.
And for some people, this is going to be felt much more intensely. Specifically, for anyone with planets in their birth charts near 28 degrees of either Leo or Scorpio. For them, this eclipse forms a highly dynamic pattern called a T-square. The eclipse and Uranus are the 2 points of tension, and that personal planet becomes the 3rd point, creating a real focal point for all of this intense energy.
You know, to really understand how these different aspects show up, it helps to compare. Let's think back to the total eclipse of August 2017. That event was defined by something totally different, a grand fire trine. And what followed? A series of very rapid, fiery events. This eclipse in 2026 has nothing like that. It has a fixed square. So the manifestation is slower, it's more stubborn, and it really concerns deep structural disruption.
So, now that we've examined all these different pieces, we can finally get to the fundamental principle, the core dynamic that's really driving this entire event.
In astrology, it all comes down to something called the north node of the moon. Think of it as a point of intake. It's where energy and experience flow in. The south node, on the other hand, is the corresponding point of release, and this eclipse, it occurs right at the north node.
Here's a useful way to picture it. Think of a faucet. The north node is the entry point for the flow. Now, right before the eclipse, imagine that flow is somehow obstructed or blocked. The moment of the eclipse, that's the moment the obstruction is completely removed. And what's the result? It's not a trickle, it's a sudden, powerful surge of influx.
And so, the core challenge presented by this particular alignment isn't one of lack or of emptiness. It's a challenge of excess. It's an overwhelming arrival of ideas and impulses and information all coming in at once. And that brings us back to where we started, to the Antarctic horizon. The ring of fire is thin. Only 7.26% of the sun's light remains. That is enough.